video, I'm going to do a chess game that was played by Magnus Carlsen against Deepan Chakravarthy. Magnus Carlsen, who's playing from the white pieces, opens the game with pawn to e4. Pawn to c5, Deepan Chakravarthy replies with a Sicilian defense. Knight to f3, knight to c6 and knight to c3 was played in this position. Knight to f6 and white goes for bishop to b5, an altered variation of the Najmadinov-Rossolimo attack, and here black goes for pawn to e5. Bishop captures c6, d captures c6 and knight captures c5. Knight captures e4, knight captures c4 and black goes for queen to d4, attacking both this e5 knight and this e4 knight. So white castles, queen captures e5. If you go for queen captures e4, then after rook to e1, queen to f5, white would go for knight to g6 and you would win this rook on h8. So in this position, black went for queen captures e5, pawn to d4 and this was a new novelty at that time. The move that was considered was rook to e1 and after rook to e1 black would have gone for bishop to e7. But Magnus Carlsen goes for pawn to d4 and the idea is after c captures d4 he immediately went for rook to e1. He utilized this e1 file for his rook. Bishop to e6 was played and now bishop to g5. The idea is if you go for a move like pawn to b3 then black will immediately castle queen side. So white plays bishop to g5, bishop to e7 trying to exchange some pieces, pawn to f4 and now queen to d5. Bishop captures e7, king captures e7 and pawn to f5 was played in this position. If black goes for bishop captures f5, then after knight to c3, white will open up a check and he will win this queen on d5. So in this position, black went for queen captures f5 but now queen captures d4, attacking this g7 pawn and black has not really developed any of his pieces. Black wins for queen to d5 but now queen to b4 giving another check. Black goes for pawn to c5 as if you go for king to e8 then white would go for rook a d1 and let's say black goes for queen h5. Knight to d6 check, king to e7 and after pawn to g4, queen to h4, knight to f5 would win this queen on h4. So in this position, after this queen d5 move, queen b4 check, black goes for c5, knight captures c5, threatening some discoveries, pawn to a5 and now queen to a3. Queen to d4, black gives a check, king to h1 and after queen to b4, black is trying to exchange queens because if you go for queen captures b4, then after a captures b4, white has lost all the initiative he had. So after queen to b4, it is essential that you keep the queens on the board. White plays queen to e3 and it was in this position that Deepan Chakravarthy resigned the game as there was simply nothing to do. After this queen to e3 move, the only move for black would be to play king to d8. But what happens after rook to e8? White would go for knight captures e6 and after f captures e6, queen captures e6, king to d8, queen captures e8. So black would have to go king to f8 but now after rook to f1 check, queen f4, rook captures f4 is a checkmate. But let's analyze what happens after king to d8. White would first go for pawn to a3 and after queen to b6, queen to c, rook to d1 check, king to c7 and now queen e5 check, king to c8, knight captures e6, f captures c6. But now after rook to d3, there is simply no stopping rook to c3 check and rook to d1 is coming. So in this position, Deepan Chakravarthy resigned the game and thank you for watching the video till the end friends. I will be visiting you with more chess videos on opening chess traps, puzzles, endgame strategies, chess miniatures very soon. So subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any of my future content. Thank you and have a great day friends.